mother and daughter from Ukraine, not knowing anything about anything other than their background. They begin to become a part of the church. They become believers. Her husband's still over in Ukraine. About a year later, they're talking by phone and keeping in contact, and she's becoming fully ingrained in the church. She now works at the church. Well, the husband, he ends up paying a bribe to be able to get from Ukraine to Moldova so that he can come and rescue his wife and daughter from the cult that they're in. He couldn't believe what she was telling him. He just thought she got involved in some cult. Long story short, he ends up becoming a believer. He now works for the church. He was baptized a year ago.
Hello and welcome to Reaching the Rest podcast, episode 6. This podcast was inspired by a desire to connect on a deeper level with global workers around the world, to get to know those with boots on the ground that have dedicated their lives to fulfilling the Great Commission and to hear their stories. My name is Amy Clausen, and I'm the missions director at Bethel's Rock Church in Minnesota. We have the honor of speaking with Troy Darren, who lives and serves in Moldova. Hi, Troy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, this is great to be with you.
Can we start off just with you telling us a little bit about yourself and your ministry?
Well, my wife and I are missionaries now for almost 20 years, and before that we were in pastoral roles, mostly in Wisconsin for 20 years. We had led 10 short-term mission trips prior to God calling us. And we went to North Central University and met and got married there and headed off into the ministry. And now we've been in Moldova, like I said, almost 20 years, and we love it. It's we've had really a great ride and very blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think over the past almost 20 years, what is kind of like the one story that you always share, the like big, event or testimony or unexpected thing that just sticks out in your mind? And I'm sure something, I can see your face, so something must have popped into your head.
No, I'm just thinking how you're not going in order of the questions, but that's all right. You just jumped right into a big story. Let me share. This will take a little bit of setup, but it's really in the years that we've been here. The last 5 years have really been the most incredible. And when we were at the church in 21 itinerating, I would have shared some of this story because we would have been right in the midst of it, and it just is still continuing on. We itinerated in 21 and returned to Moldova in the spring of 22. But anyway, around the summer of 2019, coming into the year 2020, I was just here at the apartment one day, just kind of doing some of the administrative work and kind of a normal day. And I felt this prompting within me, 20 churches in 2020. And I distinctly remember right away thinking, all right, that came out of left field, but I think that was God, but that is crazy. I'm just going to go get a coffee and hope that thought kind of goes away. Serious. I remember all that happening in a moment. And I really... Usually we help with a couple churches a year, so since we've been on the mission field, we've done a variety of things, from student ministry, campus ministry, many different evangelism outreaches. But we've always hosted mission teams, and we would be looking to help start a new church, in an unreached area, village, community. But nothing ever like 20 churches in a year. So the whole thing was just so far out there that I really, over the next couple days and the next week, it kind of I would get these flashbacks. It just wouldn't leave. And I kept trying to ignore it. And it probably took me 2-3 weeks before I said, okay, God, I think this is you. I believe it's you.
Yeah.
And now what? You know, that was just me acknowledging, God, that's you. And I have no idea. What do you have in mind? Because I know what we've been doing for a number of years. We have teams come and we help with 2 or 3 churches a year, but what are you thinking? And I was wondering if I'm just playing numbers games, you know, the year 2020,
Sure.
20 churches in 2020. Anyway, I'll get this going a little faster. You know, there were many steps to begin to take. I wasn't home itinerating, so I wasn't able to go to churches and share this big new vision.
Yeah.
I'm just here in Moldova, and we are probably about a year and a half from going home to, no, actually we were about 6 months from going home to itinerate. So at that stage in that term, there's not a whole lot of money. There's basically just like God saying, all right, 20 churches in 2020. So this is the summer of 2019.
Okay.
So I just began to take the little steps
Yeah.
that I knew to do, you know, to just begin to check in the country with the pastors, the leaders that I knew. Is anybody looking to at a new project, to plant a new church? You know, I've built relationships, of course, over the years. And, you know, that took some time, but I came up with a list of 20 places. And then I just wrote up a little paragraph. My daughter helped me make a nice little trifold flyer called 20 Churches in 2020, the 2020 vision. Can you see it? You know? And each project had about $5,000 to $20,000 as a designated amount. And we would, you know, it didn't mean we were going to fund and build 20 new churches. It meant that we were going to strategically go after helping 20 new churches get started.
Yeah.
Whatever that meant, buying land, buying a building and helping retrofit it, doing a new construction project. I didn't know. I was just walking with God, walking on water, you know, in this situation, really. And by the time we came to December of 2019, heading into 2020, I had 10 of the projects on the trifold already spoken for or covered by churches.
Wow.
So, you know, there was calls and connections with pastors, and just God put stuff together. Again, I'm on the mission field, so I'm trying to walk and chew gum and do this all from here. So we come into 2020, and I'm pretty excited that I even have these 10, and I'm just believing that in 2020, God's already covered 10. Somehow during the year, he's going to cover the other 10. And we're a 4-season climate like you, just not as cold. So January, February, March are good months just to prepare, get ready, start doing some of the, you know, groundwork for the 10 projects, what we're going to be doing with them. And, you know, it's cold, it's winter, so nobody's outside working with the hammer and stuff. Well, we're getting ready to go, you know. Here comes March, and you probably remember March of 2020 was COVID.
Yes, I do.
And here comes COVID, and just like all over the world, our country shuts down.
Yep.
From March, you know, whatever that was, probably it was by the 1st of April. We're just shut down April, May, into mid-June. And I had 6 mission teams, and they all canceled. And mission teams represent probably a project.
Yeah.
So here we are, COVID year, all my mission teams cancel. And just to fast forward this, by the time 2020 was over, we had met all of our obligations and commitments to help with 20 churches in 2020. And we came home to itinerate a month and a half later in February of 21. I'm even getting goosebumps a little bit just telling you this, because sometimes it's been a little while since I've retold this story, but it 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 was amazing. We were home. We itinerated. I mean, it was so far out there for what we've done in the past.
Yeah.
And I was on fire when I came home to itinerate, just because I knew Jesus asked me to get out of the boat, and I stepped out, and we just walked on water, and we saw God do this. And so, I mean, the whole year itinerating, even with your group that we shared with in Richfield, no matter where it was never old getting up and telling this story. And even now it's not.
Yeah.
And we had people responded. There was such a, you raise your support, people give offerings. We came back to Moldova really ready to go after another 20. And by this point, we landed in April of 2022 after our year of itineration. The Ukraine-Russia war was 2 months underway. We had refugees all over the place in Moldova. Many of those churches that we helped with were helping refugees. One had bunk beds. One of the first ones, their whole sanctuary, I got the picture, full of bunk beds. Twice a day they're going to the Palanca border, just bringing back refugees.
Wow.
And so we helped with some of that initially, but it was like just bang, immediately we were back into putting all this money to work from itineration. And I've really been doing that up until even right now.
Yeah.
I'm just starting to get low on my budget, but I've put thousands of dollars to work again, probably over another 20 churches. Last month we had Aberdeen, South Dakota here, a team of 7. We just built another church. In 1 week, we were able to go, this is the end of June, we were able to go from just a slab of cement, about 25 by 65 as far as feet. And this is in a village, no church, a region that we've been kind of targeting. And in 1 week, Aberdeen team, the Moldovan brothers and sisters, we went from this slab of cement to the roof on, windows and doors in, and they're having church there already. I got pictures just a couple days ago from the pastor, and I didn't even know they were already going to start having some services. The weather's good right now during summer.
Yeah.
They just have some benches up. It's enclosed. It's probably a little hot, and we'll continue working on it. I'm going out to be with the mother church and out there by that project this weekend to preach, helping give a little bit of money so we can get the exterior finished for weather and ready for winter. But that's a little, that story will never grow old, and we're still living in the midst of it, and it's just been phenomenal. And again, it's I'm not even that good at construction, to tell you the truth. I don't mind doing it. But when we have teams come, we're ministering to kids. We're doing home visits. Maybe you've seen some of our most recent email newsletters. We're in the schools. We're helping build the new church as well. But we are always multifaceted and trying to be as evangelistic as we can when we have the team and make as big an impact as we can.
Yeah.
But we have just, I don't know, things just from that moment where I was just minding my own business and God said 20 churches in 2020. I mean, we've just been riding this wave with God. And it was almost like it was everything built to this moment in our missions years.
Yeah.
And we're not the youngest anymore. We came to the mission field in our kind of mid-40s, a little before our mid-40s. And these last 5 years have been just supercharged.
Wow.
So, you threw out that question right away. There you go. So you got an earful.
Absolutely. Well, that's so encouraging and exciting to hear that, you are just continuing to get this fresh vision. I think that sometimes, it can seem like just going to the field, like that's it, that's kind of like, that's the vision, is like getting to the field. And so people that don't know what it's like, well, that already is like the whole thing. And then to hear you say, we were doing, ministry one way, and then God challenged us to like do something totally new. I think that's really exciting to kind of hear how things just continue to change, and God stretches you and challenges you in different ways. That the challenge isn't necessarily just getting to the field. It's like there are things that God continues to have that are new for you and your ministry and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said, when you got back from itineration that you were, excited and thinking like, let's do another 20. So what does that look like? So once you got back there, and it sounds like, you alluded to, more churches have been built and planted and things like that. But can you catch us up to speed with where are those kind of initial 20 churches, the 20 in 2020, and then what has happened since then?
Yes. If you were, I mean, in a given day, you could come over and we could go take a ride together, and we could show you 10, 20 churches in a day, depending on how long we stopped at each one.
Yeah.
Of course, many of them, like the one we just did in a place called Bogeni Noi, that was probably one of the fastest churches. We just had such a strong team of Moldovans along with our Aberdeen team. And, in the village, it's one of the best buildings in this village now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a huge project, but it was a very sufficient building, and it's new. Mm-hmm. It's not just like buying a house or a little market, storefront thing and fixing it up. So many of our projects, there can be new builds, there can be even taking a house. Sometimes a house works, mm-hmm. and maybe it's all we can get or afford, and we just, strip it out and make as big a room as we can to just get the ministry started. One place we have is a former Soviet library. It's not the biggest place, but that's what it was in the past, and now it's a church.
That's cool.
So that was a cool project. Mm-hmm. But we have a variety of these. So many of them from the first years, like 2020, 21, 22, probably most of them are finished now as far as the whole building, pretty much complete and not needing a lot of extra work. And they're just doing ministry underneath the cover of a mother church. Bogeni Noi, we were able to go from the cement slab, and this is with wood construction, which is new in about the last 10 years for us. Everything is, in this side of the world, is concrete. It's the Soviet world. It's just Eastern Europe. It's just concrete structures everywhere, old apartment blocks. So Bogeni Noi is up and running already, and they're having services, but of course there's still a chunk of work to do there, but it's already usable, so we're using it. But many of these churches, they're under the cover of a mother church. And, in Moldova, many of our churches, the church is pretty young. During the Moldova is a former Soviet republic. It's very, very allied ethnically with Romania, but after World War II, Stalin chopped off the northeast corner of Romania, and it became USSR, Moldavia. And for almost 50 years, until 91, when we declared our independence, we were a communist country. So we have the whole Russian influence, we have the Russian language, we have the Romanian language, which was declared our national language again in 1991 when we became independent. So I might have got off track here a little bit with you on that. I know you were talking about what's happened to the churches
That's all
since.
right, yeah.
And I forget why I went in that direction, but Because the church was underground, and it's kind of a fairly young church.
Yeah.
So in 90, there were times churches, people sneaking around, meeting in the woods, meeting in apartment blocks, but coming in 2 by 2,
Wow.
over a half an hour so nobody would notice. And, not every place was like that. And
Yeah.
through all the years, it wasn't always like that, but there was persecution for the church, for believers especially. And so the church in 91, in a sense, came up from underground,
Yeah.
and we have religious freedom now, and very thankful. We don't have too many problems in that direction. There's a religious culture and background that can be an opposition to us. And in the first couple of decades, there was a lot of challenges to our pastors, to buildings being set on fire,
Oh, wow.
windows being broken. Even just 2 years ago, we had one set on fire. But for the most part, things are pretty good in the country. But it's a fairly newer church, so even our mother churches, in many ways, can be 20 years old, 25. And they may not be much bigger than 50 or 75 people,
Yeah.
but they're already looking to the next village. One of my favorite places is in Heertop, and it's one of the best looking buildings. This was one that we were able to help with. And again, I just want to make sure people don't think I'm just patting myself on the back. We have a part, and a lot of times our part is important in even getting the project going forward. And then we just, the pastors, ourselves, we all trust God. We get as far as we can, and then we trust God. But Heertop, this September will be 2 years old, and it's just an amazing looking building. I wish I could just send you photos and you could throw them up. But within 2 years, actually within a year, they, as a new church themselves, planted another church in the village about 3-4 miles away. And I helped with Heertop. I've helped with this village next door, Moren. And Heertop was a brand new build. And the other one was a store we were able to buy, two levels, lots of room. And that one's getting retrofitted. And actually today, first thing I woke up to this morning was a message from the pastor just talking about we're kind of stuck in Marin. We're out of money. We want to go forward.
Yeah.
So, I keep in touch and probably work very closely with the mother churches and the pastors and all these places. I don't just give money and don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
If I'm helping a new project get started, I know the pastor, I know the mother church. I'm out there meeting with them. We're discussing it. We're making plans, asking questions. If we can bring a team, it's awesome. But you just start walking through this.
Yeah.
And you get excited when you have the first service and you start seeing things come together, and then you just move to really supporting the mother church and the new work that they got going and evangelism opportunities. And so at this point, we just every Sunday we have places to go.
Yeah.
Just the 40-ish churches just in the last 5-6 years.
Wow.
That we can be going to check on. So praise God. That I told you I sometimes can get a little wordy, so I don't know if
No, that's
I
great.
get going too long in directions. Feel free to cut me off.
No, I'm just interested to hear about the work you're doing and the journey that God's been walking with you on. And it sounds like a lot of what you're doing right now, and maybe have been doing all along, is partnering with the national church, meaning, people that are from Moldova, pastors that are from Moldova. And at this point, being there almost 20 years, I'm sure you have very strong relationships, have built up a lot of trust. But can you talk a little bit about, like, how did you get to that point? Because I'm sure, you step into a new country, you have to build all of that. You don't just get, I'm assuming, oh, you're from somewhere else. Can you please help us? That's not how it goes. So yeah, can you just speak to what did creating that partnership with the national church look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I don't know if the audience is familiar with AGWM or Assemblies of God World Missions, and they know that that's who we're with. Perhaps you as a church, you support many workers from many different organizations. But our fellowship, we were probably right at the end, a little bit of the end of when you were called to missions. You go through all the different processes, and it can take, and then you itinerate.
Yeah.
You have about six months of kind of going through different things to be approved, and then you have a good year to a year and a half itinerating to raise your budget. And 20 years ago, because we were really approved in spring of 26, spring of 2006. So that's why we're close to 20 years. But we were right at the end of, in the Assemblies of God, you're just kind of dropped in your country and you sink or swim. There weren't as many supports.
Sure.
I mean, the Assemblies of God is very good at letting you go forward with a call that you feel in your heart.
Yeah.
So they're not telling you where to go necessarily. And we're in the country we felt called to.
Yeah.
And fortunately, when we landed here, today, I just said that little backdrop because today there was much more of the team effort. Before I would ever get to the mission field today, I would be part of a team.
Sure.
And that's really a great thing that's going on with the Assembly of God. So fortunately, there were some good missionaries here and friends of ours that we had known. And perhaps your audience knows them, Andy and Nancy Rotz. So they were the only other missionary couple here. And, we're dropped in the country. And I just start, you can do missions in so many ways. Fortunately, Andy and myself and Heidi, my wife, and Andy's wife, Nancy, we are kind of all a little bit of the same mode in a sense. And so I was hanging out with Andy quite a bit, and they helped us immensely getting to know the ropes and beginning to travel around and meet some of the pastors, worked with some of his teams. I didn't have my own teams. I was just trying to figure out, you start language your first year, and you just try and start figuring out the culture. So we are fortunate in that way. And in time, with my 20 years already in different pastoral roles, and being 44, I think at the time, we had a background in ministry and church. So we started ourselves on Sundays beginning to go to different churches and there's always churches to go and begin to build the relationships. And that was a big part of it. You just got to get out and start meeting people. And we loved it. We have two boys we have two sons and a daughter. At this point, of course, they're all married and they're older. We have 4 grandkids, but our boys were already in university or out of university, so our 15-year-old daughter was the only one who came to the mission field with us from age 15 to 18. But my wife and I and our daughter, we just loved the weekends of heading out. And, we're thankful that God put that in our heart, and we quickly fell in love with the Moldovan people. We're pretty relational, outgoing. We started to build relationships. And that begins to start the ball rolling. Then over time, and missions takes time, it just does. Over time, we begin to bring in our own teams. We have guests, we have MAs, we have some interns. We just have different ones work with us, and we have a feel for Moldova and different ministry opportunities and where we can work. And it all starts. You just build, and the ministry as you get going in ministry and relationships, you kind of become partners in the battle, for the king, to spread the kingdom. And that's it's wonderful stuff, when you work together and sweat it, and you see a new church going up, and you're trying to reach the next village. You're a partner in that with your Moldovan national brothers and sisters, and they are precious people. They truly are. So the whole relationship thing, it's like when 20 churches in 2020, and that whole example I shared, when that came, all those relationships all of a sudden were like in place for that to happen. And I didn't even totally realize that, as you just start moving through this as best you can, but I can look back now and just see how God helped us build those relationships, and out of all those relationships, we were even able to facilitate that vision. So, and now even more, these are, it's not just a national pastor from Moldova I work with. These are deep friendships you have. And, we just have spent many years here, minus the month of vacation, to head home around Christmas and have some time at home, other than the year home every 4 years itinerating. But yeah, this is your world, and the relationships are so important. Yeah, that's a good question.
So I was just thinking back about the vision that God gave you, and then you just seeing the goodness of God, and just how he was at work, and how that just built excitement in you in so many different ways, and kind of changed the trajectory of what you were even doing in Moldova, and now what you continue to do. But at the same time, I can imagine coming back, and then all of a sudden these different refugee situations are happening, and it's like, whoa, okay, there was a plan, for me, and God using me and stretching me and growing me, but then he was using me as a part of a bigger plan, of things that were in the works and happening in the future that I was unaware of. Can you speak a little bit more to just some of those kind of cultural pieces and how that has impacted ministry? And you kind of referred to things, from the history of Moldova and the church being opened up, but then also, with the Ukrainian refugees and things like that. How have those things just kind of come into play, and maybe either changed how you do ministry, or how does that kind of impact the conversations that you have and the impact that you have?
I think, speaking of, just knowing God has a bigger plan in mind, and obviously I could see, I was in the States itinerating when the whole war broke out, and even moved our return to the field a month, because there was so much up in the air. We were supposed to come back the 1st of March, but that was like 1 week after the war started, and we didn't know what was going on, and a lot of people didn't. And even a month and a half later, when we came, of course, things weren't resolved, but there was some kind of, things were in motion, helping refugees, and what countries were doing, and just, okay, this is what we got. This is not good, but how can we minister? How can we be a blessing? Praise God for these churches. Only God knew he was getting some of these churches up and ready to have an opportunity to minister. And even if it's being a place to provide a bed for a night, because most people weren't coming to Moldova as refugees to settle. They were passing through. Moldova is a very poor country, the poorest, or one of the top 2 or 3 poorest countries of Europe. And so we weren't where people were planning to settle long term. Many were just traveling through. So a number of our churches were helping with that. but even just showing that love and kindness,
Yeah.
whether it's helping with clothes, food, a place to stay, transportation to the Romanian border to be able to continue on. Of course, some did stay here because they wanted to be close if this was going to end quickly so they could return to their homes in
Right.
Ukraine. So, there's all kinds of scenarios you can imagine. In the big picture, something that I think this is just a thought process I have trying to guess in the big picture
Yeah.
what God may be doing here. And let me see if I can explain this correctly. This part of the world, being an Orthodox culture, has very deep traditional religious beliefs and an umbrella. And I probably understand that from my upbringing, which was fairly close to that
Sure.
in context in Wisconsin. And I was in my middle high school years, 16 years of age, when I came to understand the personal relationship with God and not just the religious element of,
Yeah.
just going to church on Sunday and checking in, but really moving into a personal relationship. And as evangelicals, Pentecostals, Protestants, we're probably about 2 to 3% of the country here would be considered in that mode. A great percentage, of course, is Orthodox background.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to be offensive in any way, but oftentimes in our years here, as I shared, sometimes there's just an opposition just to evangelicals in this context, in this part of the world.
Sure.
And I think one thing that happened when the refugees were coming through and through all of this, I know in Moldova, the evangelical church was, and personal people much more than the government, especially at the beginning, were the ones that just helped immensely and were an incredible blessing.
Yeah.
And I just think, and I'm just speaking of Moldova, but I'm sure that's probably true. The church, I trust, rose up in that moment.
Yeah.
And many believers were such an incredible blessing. So take all these people from this religious context and maybe even have had, had people speak ill against the evangelical church in their community or people that they know, but here they are being loved and served and blessed by evangelical believers, maybe for the first time they've ever even stepped into an evangelical church out of necessity. And as they get on the other side of this, I mean, we're not just talking about a few thousand people, we're talking about thousands or millions who will be sharing with friends, what did you do? Where'd you go? Who helped you? How did you make it? And for a lot of people, they're going to talk about the church that helped them or the Christian, the believers. And I just believe that there's an openness that can happen in this part of the world, in Moldova, and a change of attitude, of mindset, of heart about the evangelicals, about the Pentecostal church. And that might be enough for them to be open when they hear the gospel.
Yeah.
We have a great church in the north in a city called Belts, called Lumina Lumi, Light of the World. And the pastor up there is just one of my best friends. We've built so many churches together, and he's actually been a bishop, which is like a presbyter or almost superintendent up in that region. And their church is one of the largest ones up there. So they had a good amount of room, but they were going every day, multiple trips to the northern border, bringing people. And some people settled in. That city's over 100,000, so some were able to settle in there a little bit, get jobs, connect with the church. Here's a great story. One mother and daughter from Ukraine, uh, not knowing anything about anything other than their background. They begin to become a part of the church. Uh, they're loved, cared for. Uh, they, they become believers. The mother, the daughter, I believe, was only about 8 or 9 at that time.
Yeah.
Father is her husband's still over in Ukraine. Sometimes I was there because and she'd be talking on the phone and crying just because, she knows he's having to find a bomb shelter or cover, or bombs are going off, because he was in an area that would have difficulties.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is about a year later. They're talking by phone and keeping in contact, and she's becoming fully ingrained in the church. She's understanding this personal relationship. The church is just amazing to her and loving her. She now works at the church.
Wow.
Well, the husband, he ends up paying a bribe to be able to get from Ukraine to Moldova so that he can come and rescue his wife and daughter from the cult that they're in. And when he gets here, that was his mentality.
Right.
He couldn't believe what she was telling him. He just thought she got involved in some cult. And that's probably what he had been told his life,
Sure.
So, long story short, he ends up becoming a believer. He now works for the church. He was baptized a year ago. He shared this story up on the stage of why he had come, at his, when he was being interviewed before he was baptized, and it's an incredible story. It's one.
Right.
And they're up there. I see them all the time. We've played Mexican Train together, and we've just built a good relationship with them and the pastor and his family. So I'll be up there on Monday, probably be seeing them. So anyway, that's a little bit of what I think God may be opening minds and hearts because of love and care and the church that was there in a time of need.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the different things that you've already shared, I would expect are things that you weren't necessarily expecting to happen or to experience, or for God to ask of you, way back when you first came onto the fields. But when you kind of look back over the entirety of your ministry thus far, and you think of, something, the most unexpected thing, the thing that, your initial assumptions of what life on the field was going to look like, and then, something just completely just out of the blue, or out of the ordinary, or just not at all what you would have expected. What comes to mind?
Amy, I got to go back to the 20 churches in 2020. Whenever I leave Moldova, whenever my life is over, I will always think of that as the moment I walked on water.
Wow.
And it's just an incredible thing.
Yeah.
Because I have a pretty honest evaluation of myself, and I just know I have giftings, but that was not something I could do.
Yeah.
I didn't have the wisdom. I didn't have the plans. I didn't necessarily have, I didn't have the big vision for it. I was just here for God to use, and there were years when it was frustrating because when you get to the field, you're ready to save the whole country. Your wheels are just spinning.
Yeah.
And you just think, you're the man with the plan, and then you realize you're like reduced to a 3 or 4 year old. You can't speak the language. You don't know anything about the city, the country. Right. You can barely move around without calling somebody and getting some direction or help. And so those first years, I remember just. I'll give you one of my favorite lines, and this kind of sums up where I was for a season.
Yeah.
Is what I'm doing worth what I'm missing? Because my wheels were spinning, and I wasn't going to be sitting around doing nothing, but
Yeah.
I was trying to find my place in this world
Yeah.
and get going in a direction. And it just takes time to start to build the relationships, to get involved in ministry, to build ministry,
Yep.
to start to work together. And there are just times you're just wondering, am I making a difference? Maybe some people come to the field. I suppose if you teach, you know exactly what you're doing when
Sure.
you land. You're going to be teaching at the Bible school, and you're there Monday through Friday from this time to this time, and bang. But and I'm talking 20 years ago. I didn't necessarily come with a team. I just was dropped in Moldova. And, my background, I had 15 years in youth ministry and then another 6, 7 years in associate pastor roles. But, trying to find your place in the world. And we did student ministry. Began to host teams, and we loved to try and, plan a new project, but we were doing just a couple a year.
Yeah.
And that always felt like, okay, that's being missional. That felt good. And we had a great little run with student campus ministry that about 3 years. That was some of our favorite years.
Yeah.
And, with my background, I always thought God's going to lead us to be working with the young people in some way. And we have, but it was never the thing that God wanted us to do like 100%.
Yeah.
But when the 20 churches in 2020 came, I can't get away from that. And I'm kind of glad to be 5 years on the other side of it.
Sure.
Because I remember those first days and months and trying to figure out how we're doing this. God, what are we doing here? How's this going to work? How's this going to happen?
Yep.
And then seeing God begin to do it.
Yeah.
And faith growing and trust and confidence in God and just being amazed by God and just, God, you're doing it again. And just a month ago in Bogeni, I just believe God had that team, God had that place, God is helping us reach a new region. We have 5 new churches. These are with buildings in a region that had 15 villages and no churches 2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I'm just trying to stay with God on this, keep in step with the Spirit, keep riding this wave with God. And, like I said in the beginning, it's just been an incredible run. And the big surprise really started, it was really May of 2019, when I first kind of felt that prompting.
Yeah.
That I tried to run a little bit from.
So now, as you mentioned, kind of being 5 years on the other side, what advice would you give to somebody who, is feeling like, okay, I'm feeling pulled a certain direction. I'm getting a burden for something. I feel like, God is maybe calling me to something, but I don't know. Is this just me? Is this, I don't know how this is possible. What advice would you give to somebody, whether that is, should I go on a missions trip? Should I go on the missions field? Should I even just, evangelize to my neighbor? What would you say to somebody kind of in that spot, similar to where you were back in May of 2019?
I think maybe on another podcast can share the whole missions call, because that was a frustrating time up until the time that we were called. Just in pastoral roles, they were really great. I mean, there's some ups and downs, but we really went through a little bit of the ringer, and then we were surprised by God when He called us to missions. We had led 10 short-term mission trips, and we were very open to it. We were praying about it. We were in a time of ministry transition in 2000. 5.
Yeah.
And we kind of two hands. One was, pursuing lead pastorate opportunities. One was in Minnesota, one was in Wisconsin, kind of equal opportunity with my wife and I both, one being from Minnesota, one being from Wisconsin. And the other hand was missions,
Yeah.
because we were definitely open. And so we're in this time of transition. And it's a long story, but God ends up calling us to Moldova
Yeah.
through a series of events, and to be shared at another time. But one of my favorite things coming out of that whole event, and I even on my very first itineration cycle, it was one of my slides, and it simply said this. It was a quote by pastor, author, Dr. Tony Evans. He said, God's guidance is such that if you follow what you do know, He'll show you what you don't know until you get to where you're supposed to go. So, we follow and we do what we know to do today. Whether we're a teenager trying to figure out the future, whether we're out of university and wondering, before I start my career, I wonder if God has missions first. Should I give a year or two to pursue that and be open to that? Last year I had a retired couple come for 2 months.
Yeah.
And give 2 months and work with us.
Wow.
So I think you bloom where you're planted right now, right? You
Yep.
just, I really just simplify this. I just know I'm human. I'm not God, and I just am God. I'm trying to do the best I can to read your word, pray. I'm trying to seek your direction. You want us to be pastors? Do you have the mission field for us? And
Yeah.
it was an agonizing year. So I've had a few ministry transitions that were, it's just part of the, I don't know, maybe the butterfly becoming the caterpillar or whatever it is. But there are just some of those growing pains, but you just stay the course, you be faithful to God. And I just believe God will honor those who honor me, he says.
Yeah.
So wherever you're at, with your heart, you start to serve God, place yourself in positions and with opportunities that you can kind of assess, is this where my heart is? Oh, we got a mission trip here, or the church is doing this outreach. Get involved. And I think all the way back to Rick Warren's SHAPE, SHAPE, personality thing. Giftings test, spiritual gifts for S, the heart for H, A is abilities, P is personality, E is experience. It's simple, but it's very good in evaluating what are some giftings that you have that you see in the Bible. What makes you tick? What gives you energy? What gets you excited? What's your passions? What are some of your natural abilities that God has given you that you have to give and can work with and you enjoy doing ministry with?
Yeah.
What's your personality makeup that God has given you? What are your life experiences? In 2005, when we're praying about God directing us, of course, we had pastoral experience. We had 10 mission trips. That's only about 10 days, but we have some missions experience.
Yeah.
And I always had a heart for missions. And it was like the pastor I was working with in Waukesha, Wisconsin, there was a whole way that God brought about this call. It happened to ultimately be in his office. And it was like everybody could see it but me, because I was just juggling so much. But he said, Troy, whenever you talk about missions, whenever you work with missions and help us host missions and do missions, you light up. You're just so alive. So it was so obvious. But I just needed God to just really, really show me, because I wasn't just going to make the decision like, do you want to go here or do you want to go there? I needed the lightning to strike, and it did. So, just like I say, serve where you're at right now. You just keep doing what you know to do right now. Let God begin to show you things you don't know, open up doors unexpectedly or opportunities, and He'll get you where you're supposed to go.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, what is something very specific that we can be praying with you about? And what are ways that we can be supporting you from Minnesota, from the U.S., and maybe in ways that we wouldn't traditionally think of?
Well, let me go with the traditional ways first, see if I think of a non-traditional one. Prayer is important, and right now I shared my wife is up in the White Bear Lake area with her mom, who's 84 years old and who's a widow, and just making decisions about senior living
Yeah.
locations and moving out of her home and a transition. Her brother and family live up in that area too, Forest Lake. So, it's just a phase and stage of missionary life and of life that we all deal with.
Yeah.
Just sometimes from the mission field, some of these things are a little more distant to try and deal with, but that's kind of in the happening as we speak.
Yeah.
Because my wife has been there a week and trying to work through that. I would say prayer and support in any way you can. I could just start naming off villages and cities where we
Yeah.
have churches. I mean, I could rattle off 30 to you right now. And I probably have about 7 specific on my mind. Alexander, Ioan Cuza, Maren, Perlica, Bogeni Noi, Magarelli, Nisparen, Katrosu, that would be ones that are probably recent this year or last year, and just trying to pray and any kind of support to help those churches just finish enough so they're enclosed and their building is at the point where it's presentable enough and they can have church and they can make it through winter and they'll be warm, So things like that. On the support side, right now, if we have resources, if we have finances, we're reaching the next village. We're getting another church going.
Yeah.
We have such great Moldovan brothers and sisters, and almost all of our finances are doubled because a lot of our work is done by the brothers and sisters here in Moldova.
Wow.
So we don't pay for labor, barely anything, because it's almost like the Amish, building the house or barn, they all come together.
Yeah.
A little bit traditional culture like that, especially in the church, Pentru Dumnezeu, for God. And people will come and they'll use their gifting, they'll give some days, and their area of expertise, and they'll bring some brothers and they'll get whatever, the roof on, the drywall in, the electrical done. So praying for laborers, boy, we need pastors, we need leaders. Moldova has a responsible person, then a deacon, then a pastor, and they're all different levels that you move through. It's a little bit of a culture, lay hands on no man suddenly. It's not like we have this big Bible school and everybody, once they get their 4-year degree and they're licensed through the district, they're all automatically stamped as pastor. You kind of got to prove yourself, and you come through the ranks of just serving under a lead pastor and being faithful, and over time, you maybe become a deacon, and over time maybe a pastor, but in the meantime, you might be a responsible person who's, after Sunday morning service at the mother church, you're going out in the afternoon to lead a home group in the next village where we're trying to get a church going. So just, labors for the field, of course. these new church plants, that they'll have favor in their communities, that they'll have blessing, that they'll be resourced, that they'll be protected, that there'll be open doors,
Yeah.
open minds and hearts. A lot of that stuff's pretty traditional. You can send. Let's talk about a mission team. I just
Sure.
responded yesterday to Celebration Church. We have them
Okay.
on the calendar for next year. We had Red Wing come 3 years ago now. In the last couple of years, we've had North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all have teams come. Moldova's a great mission trip, and it's a great country.
Yeah.
And we'll get something done for God. I don't know on the non-traditional side exactly what to say.
Yeah.
I don't have anything popping in right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think though, if you're not a missionary or, very knowledgeable about missions, I think the thought of I am supporting a missionary by going on a trip maybe isn't, just innately, you're going to think that that's a traditional way to support. Because I think sometimes the mindset is I'm maybe going on a missions trip to help the people of Moldova, or I'm going on a missions trip and God's going to do something in my life. But I think that's something that that I've kind of learned more in the past few years is I think a lot of times God uses people on trips to support missionaries as well and to encourage them and things like that. So I think, that could be a more non-traditional way.
Maybe in a non-traditional way. I mean, traditional, pray and support if you can. But, maybe you can go have a rummage sale, and all proceeds are going to go to Moldova.
Yep.
And that $1,000 is going to help us get the doors and windows for this new project.
Exactly.
Maybe you can do a fundraiser. Maybe you can do an apple pie thing, sell some crafts. I remember back in youth pastor days, man, I did enough car washes and all that stuff and sunburned days. So I did a rummage sale once, man. We made $1,000 over 3 days for a mission trip for a team to Guatemala, but my whole yard was trashed, 20 people bringing their garbage, their rummage sale junk to my house. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. But so we made $1,000.
Yeah.
Man, maybe that was a lot of money 30 years ago, but I never did it again. At least at my house.
Sure.
But whatever God may speak to you, selling brats at Cub Foods or festival, they still do that anymore, having the brat fry?
I don't know. Maybe in Wisconsin.
Can talk about that stuff, but maybe in some non-traditional way, God challenges somebody. Hey, I can raise some money with this, and I'm going to send it to Moldova.
Yeah.
Troy's got places, and I can help one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
This was great.
Good. Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us and share about your ministry and life on the mission field. And again, we're so honored to have the opportunity to partner with you and support the work that God is doing through you. And we look forward to reading your updates and just staying in touch and seeing what God continues to do in Moldova.